Yes, family, once again, give thanks for your presence with us. The Tiger's Nest. Of course, giving a joyful welcome to those who may be just stepping in. Family, once again, give thanks. And so we've been listening to that documentary, really, coming from the Wall Street Journal, speaking of the GERD, talking about the Grand Ethiopia Renaissance Dam, the GERD. And as I said, I don't too like the term the GERD at all. It sounds too much like the DERG. You know, as if someone's in the background playing some sort of subliminal message game with our minds, you know, as if the DERG is alive somewhere. But anyway, so basically you got a good understanding of the history, really, of the tension and the controversial thought patterns that is around this Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. But the whole aspect of the dam is that it would supply Ethiopia with twice the amount of electricity that it has now. And it will also put Ethiopia in a position to share electricity to Tanzania and South Sudan and even Somaliland would also benefit. And I think maybe even Djibouti, if I'm not mistaken, will benefit from this new dam that Ethiopia has already really begun. In fact, I think this year they're going to, according to the documentary they're going to conduct their 5th filling of the dam. And you see, that's really what the problem is all about. You build a dam. You see, that's why they call it a dam, you know. Although I understand the reason for dams and how they can benefit a society, you know, as a diplomat, I clearly understand. But you see, damn, that's really what it is. Whether you put an N at the end or not, it's still dam. Because what has happened, you know, the living water, the flowing water is living water. When you create a dam, you literally stagnate the water, and there are certain molecules and minerals and some living, some living microbiotics within the water that they just don't survive when they stand still. You know, they need a living, moving, flowing currency is what they thrive on. So when the water stops, when it becomes a swimming pool, then certain aspects of the life force, the ecosystem then of the water, especially that which you cannot see, will literally shift, change, and even die off. So you see water losing oxygen, water losing other gases that are necessary, water losing life. And you have the evidence of this in many parts of the world where water has been stagnated, where dams have been created. In fact, just check your society and community wherever you may live. When, you know, the water is flowing, even if it's in the gutter, it has a different outlook than when the water is stagnated, especially, let's say you have trees and shrubs or wood in the waterway or whatever is in the waterway, and the water starts to back up and creates this pool. You see these bubbles start to appear in the pool because the water is really dying. It's not alive anymore. Damn. So the dam really is a dam. But the thing is now, that the dam now, the concept of a dam, although it does retard the flow of water, anyone that is true to nature cannot deny that. But the concept of a dam really is that it is supposed to keep the water flowing, although in a retarded way. And I guess the sacrifice of the flow is to benefit the society, especially in the form of hydroelectricity and whatever else these dams produce. But now, so Egypt, for sure, more than anyone else, not really interested in all of that. They just know that you and your dam is going to bring less water. We're at the lower end of this Nile. We literally depend, because that's what happens. We depend on the rainy season in Ethiopia to fill up Lake Tana, because that is where the dam is built to, Lake Tana, the largest lake in Africa. And then, of course, Lake Tana is that which feeds the Blue Nile. You get me? And remember, the Blue Nile will meet the White Nile in Khartoum, that's in Sudan, and then they go towards the great ancient Kemet, modern day Egypt. So, and again, Egypt is right there at the end of it. And then the water goes into the delta, into the Mediterranean Sea. So they're concerned because they need the Nile. That's the life source, really, of the whole Horn of Africa. So in reality, Ethiopia is not playing bully. My understanding, they would have sat at the negotiation table for some time now. I don't think they have really come to a proper understanding as yet. But the Ethiopians would have had a plan wherein they would have released a certain amount. I can't give you the details right now of water at a specific time, a required time. And apparently this is supposed to keep the level, up full, let's say, so that everyone would be happy. But apparently the people downstream, especially the Egyptians, definitely they don't seem to be happy with it. Then now in Sudan, because of a lot of the conflicts that have been taking place of recent, they themselves have totally put aside any negotiation as it relates to Ethiopia and their dam. They have more pressing issues to deal with. And this is why Sisi was ready to make war with the brothers over the waterway that the Ethiopians were receiving in Somaliland. You remember that issue? Yeah, the Ethiopians were getting access to the sea from Somaliland. They made a deal with Somaliland, and Somalia wasn't pleased because Somalia believed that Somaliland is a part of Somalia that broke away. So the Egyptians now said, conflict in the Horn, and these fellas want to rob me of my water. So Sisi now, that's the president of Egypt, he decided to team up with Mr. Somalia now. That's the individual that just escaped an assassination attempt the other day, Sheikh Mohammed, Hassan Sheikh Mohammed. Yeah, he teamed up with him and said, well, I'm going to give you some weapons. I think he sent them already, and I'm going to send you some soldiers. And I know you have this little tension with Ethiopia for a long time. Plus, it's worse now that he's trying to team up with your sworn enemy, Somaliland. So I'll help you fight. It's all right. But then Turkey intervened. And Turkey now said, well, that's Erdogan now, said, hey, listen, man, we don't need no more war. And he worked out the problem according to what the news showed us. I wasn't there. But he worked out the problem amongst the Ethiopian prime minister and the president of Somalia, and that is why they've been chummy since. You understand? So, and they would have promised Ethiopia some access to the sea. So, although we're talking about the Derg and the dam and the lake freshwater, we still have to speak about the access to the sea, because it's all about the control of water. In fact, Ethiopia made a statement, somewhere along that line, that all of these other countries, most of them have an access to the sea. So if we want to take our water resource and utilize it for our betterment, what's their problem? That's really what the message is. But what I want to do is look at it from another angle here. We're going to be listening to some information here coming from the Ethiopian Broadcasting Corporation World, and they will be speaking of the same issue, the dam, the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, but more so along the line of exactly how it will benefit not only Ethiopia, but the rest of Africa. And again, what we were listening to before, and for those who would have missed it, remember this is the Tiger's Nest. And this is a radio program that comes to you every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Now you can subscribe to the Tiger's Nest, and you don't have to wonder. You don't have to look out the window. You don't have to wonder if he's here yet. The Tiger's Nest will be sent to you every day after the program. It will be sent via email, and you will get it in your inbox. All you have to do is to email us, priestisaacInstitute@gmail.com, and let us know that I would like to subscribe to the program, The Tiger's Nest. I would like to make sure that I get a copy of it every time it is completed. The full program too, not just half of it that may be uploaded on some social media, etc., etc. We want to be a part of the subscription team of the Tiger's Nest. All right. Give thanks. Priest Isaac Institute @gmail.com. Let's go through.
And now moving to stories selected for detailed analysis, the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam GERD is hailed as a transformative project with far-reaching benefits for the Horn of Africa. Defense and foreign policy expert Noah Midamba say the dam holds the potential to address energy shortage, enhance regional cooperation, and stabilize water resources.
The Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam GERD is expected to have several positive impacts on the Horn of African region, including increased hydropower generation, improved water supply reliability for irrigation, and enhanced regional cooperation, while also potentially mitigating some environmental challenges. Talking to ABC World at this dialogue, Professor of Defense and Foreign Policy Noah Midamba stressed that the Horn region encountered multifaceted challenges, that GERD remains to be a beacon of hope in alleviating a number of those problems.
No, of course, this is, once again, coming from Ethiopian Broadcasting Corporation and defense expert, defense and policy expert. Professor is speaking to this news agency as it relates to the GERD, as they call it, the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. So you would have heard the reporter speaking of the benefits even before they get into excerpts from the interview. You would hear the reporter speaking of the benefits of the dam and, of course, how it will actually benefit the Horn of Africa in general, and even have some sort of good effect on the negative aspects of climate change. So let's continue to listen.
Foreign policy, Noah Midamba stressed that the Horn region encountered multifaceted challenges, that GERD remains to be a beacon of hope in alleviating a number of those problems in the region.
And so we have an instability. The Grand Renaissance Dam will be one of the key points of stability in the area. And the reason why I'm saying that is there are only 4 countries in Africa that has full access to electricity.
Now, I want you to hear this. He's saying that this is going to be a symbol of stability in Africa. There are only 4 African countries that are stable, that produce their own electricity. Huh? That's some serious stuff. Listen to it good.
In the area. And the reason why I'm saying that is there are only 4 countries in Africa that has full access to electricity.
That has full access, his words, to electricity.
Electricity is key to development of the modern world. So you're looking at Egypt that has 100% supply of electricity or power. You're looking at Algeria, you're looking at Morocco, you're looking at Tunisia. All of them are on the north half of Africa. In fact, when you look at the Geo-global map at night, those are the only areas that are lit, and then of course the southern tip of Africa.
So you get what the good brother is saying? You know, with all due respect, I know sometimes the different accents may get away from some people, but he's clearly showing you, again, these 4 countries, they're all in the north. Egypt. Interesting, eh? And you have Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria. These are all Arab countries. Libya is not in his count. I wonder why. And the great Libya was leading them all a few years ago, a decade and a few years ago. But they killed the leader of Libya at the time. And he said that when you fly over Africa in the evening or in the night, or when you see it from, I guess, a certain distance in space or wherever in the night, it is the northern aspect of Africa. Those same countries, Egypt and Tunisia, Algeria, and Morocco, that you see lit, lights, bright, and some aspect of the southern tip of Africa, which of course is South Africa. Not all of it now, some aspect. And he said the rest of it is dark. Obviously there's light there, you know, but it's too few and far apart in comparison to the Arab countries. And he's saying that this is a game changer. If Ethiopia is to develop this power, and they are obviously on their way to seal the deal. I mean, the dam is already there, you know, it's not an idea. It's already causing tensions. They've been at the negotiation table, I think, for at least 10 years. So his work definitely in progress. And he say that it's a game changer, and it is quite timely and quite symbolic as well. Let's continue.
And the rest of Africa are dark at night.
And the rest of Africa, dark at night. Eh? So get the point good, eh?
It is key to development of the modern world. So you're looking at Egypt that has 100% supply of electricity or power. You're looking at Algeria, you're looking at Morocco, you're looking at Tunisia. All of them are on the north half of Africa. In fact, when you look at the Geo-global map at night, those are the only areas that are lit, and then of course the southern tip of Africa. And the rest of Africa are dark at night. And so the issue of this dam is so crucial to the region, the African development, that it must be treated so. It must be respected. It must be continued to be molded so that it will support over 400 million people along the Nile Valley.
He has further highlighted that the African Union has to give priority to the issues of GERD.
The outside world,
so before we get to the African Union, because he's showing you now that this is going to benefit over 400 million people along the Nile. I think there's 120 million people in Ethiopia. So this is more than the Ethiopians. And where the report is heading to now is the importance of the African Union coming on board as a unit to really push this cause, according to the good professor here, Professor Noah, it is. And this is quite important, you know, because again, you can jump high or jump low. There are going to be many people that will be will see this as taking advantage, really, of those on the other end of the stick. And I'm sure there are even few Ethiopians who may think that, well, it may benefit us, but that's not a nice thing to do to the other people down the line. But let's listen.
It must be continued to be molded so that it will support over 400 million people along the Nile Valley.
He has further highlighted that the African Union has to give priority to the issues of GERD.
The outside world like to come in to Africa and interfere. You know, I maintain that the Djibouti candidate, as good as he was on foreign relations, it comes from broker country. Djibouti is broken. Everybody is in Egypt, in Djibouti, whether it's America, whether it's China, whether it's the Middle East, everywhere. There's a broker country. Who's going to take care of the interests of Africa? The sub-Saharan Africa. Who is going to speak for them? Who is going to value what we are about? That we all have the right on this continent to live along with each other. You know, so the AU need to take a very clear stand. You know, need to take a very clear stand on the issue of the Renaissance Dam, one of the top priority. But I doubt very seriously that the chairman from Djibouti is going to stick his neck out in order to deal with that situation.
So he's saying now, once again, that the African Union, remember we just covered the 38th summit of the African Union, and you can see it in our magazine, which is the Ambassador's Pen. That is the special edition of the Ambassador's Pen. And he is speaking of the newly elected Minister of Foreign Affairs. He is the newly elected, African Union chairman. And he is the Djibouti's Minister of Foreign Affairs, or at least was. And that's one Ali Youssef, Mohammed Ali Youssef. So he's saying that Djibouti is a broken country. And even before Mr. Youssef won his seat, that is Professor Noah here that is speaking with the Ethiopian Broadcasting Corporation, he is saying that he was already skeptical of the brother. Now, Djibouti is Ethiopia. This is something else. Djibouti is Somalia. All of these people are the same people, especially when you're going up to Eritrea and Tigray and Djibouti coming down that side. You have the Isaac people. All these Somali people are still Isaac people or the Isaac people. You can see they all look alike and have a familiar look, and whatever different tribe they want to say they're from, and different ethnic group, and Oroma and Amhara, and enough of them just look the same. But he's saying now that this brother now, his little country, is a broken country really, and I guess it has too many foreign influences pulling it in different directions really. So he doesn't have faith in that leadership now that the African Union has to really deal with certain issues and to support certain issues. For example, what we're talking about here, the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. That's what he's trying to say. So Chairman Mahmoud Ali Youssef, he's not seeing him as an individual who is going to gather the masses together to rally behind Ethiopia in this cause. Hey, the people that are really in the front line of being against it are other African territories, really, especially Egypt. But he's saying it's more than that. Yeah, they're international bidders here, you know, backers of Egypt. Remember, these are the Arab states. This is the point I know he's highlighted. The Arab countries is who have all the current. The Arab countries is who pushing the electricity. You fly up in the sky in the night, the Arab country is bright. And it's not even no Arab countries, because we know how they got these countries just around 630 something AD. They became Arab countries. Since when? As if we forget about those countries, you know. Yeah, we talk about South Africa, but we forget Algeria. We forget Morocco. Those are our countries. We forget Egypt. I don't even have to get into that. That's why the same Gaddafi clearly said that this land, which is Libya, he said belongs to the original people of the land, which are the Black Africans, and one day they must get it. He said that in the Green Book. For those of you who would have ever read it, I'm paraphrasing, but I know that's what was said. Hey, let's listen to a bit more of this here before we seal up.
That's the reason I had doubt when it came over, and of course everybody was support, but he had a lot of international support. What about the sub-Saharan Africa? You know, what's the future of the continent? And so people need to sit down seriously and start talking and taking a stand on what is right, and then do away with all issues that is going to create problems.
GERD can help stabilize water flows in the Nile River, potentially leading to more reliable water supplies for irrigation and other uses in Sudan and Egypt. The GERD has far-reaching, diverse positive implications that may include altering economic problems, political disorder, unemployment, and security issues in the region.
So, according to that report, the DERG, I'm saying the DERG again, the GERD. This is why I don't really like the way that they would have taken the whole the phrase and created this whole, I'm saying this anagram as such to be played with. That's what it is. When you look at one word, if a person was dyslexic and they look at GERD, it would look like DERG. You see what I'm saying? And knowing the past that the DERG brought to us, the fact that when I look at it at the first glance, I'm seeing GERD, and remember, that's my job. Technogram and anagram and subliminal messages and swords and words. That's my job. And you turn it around and dog becomes God, and that's my job. So I'm going to see DERG in GERD. I can't help it. You know, I'm cut for that sort of stuff. So I'm going to say, so why is this period of the reign of terror somewhat hidden? Okay, it may just be me. Maybe I'm having nightmares. Maybe I'm still traumatized by the DERG, so I'm just seeing it everywhere. So maybe it's just me. But even if it's just me, why is it that this outstanding project now, this $50 billion project that is supposed to really revolutionize Ethiopia, this is bigger than the Adwa Memorial Museum. This is bigger than the Science and Art Center. This is bigger than what other projects they did. So many different projects going on in Ethiopia, but this one is supposed to be the game changer. This is more than aesthetics. This project got fellas upset. The GERD. I'm telling you, GERD. And yet still it has this tone of the red terror. I think they said it's the 5th worst genocide or attempt genocide ever in Africa under Colonel Mengistu. But anyway, so the GERD itself is, according to this report now, will actually stabilize the flow of the Nile. Interesting, you know. So where ones are saying that it's going to disrupt it, and I said earlier, and of course it only makes sense, it will somehow retard it. But the report is saying, no, it will stabilize it. I guess it's fixing it as if it needed to be fixed somehow. So it's going to stabilize the flow of the Nile itself and will actually assist the countries downstream with irrigation and making things better for them. But everybody downstream, either they haven't read that report or they don't even care what the report says, you know. And as I said, my good brothers and sisters, in the world of diplomacy and even growth, I understand the erection of the dam, but in my world, the reality is, when you deal with the waterway in that way, it must retard even the system in one form or the other. That's science, that's chemistry, that's what I would have studied, and marine biology or what have you, when you stop the flow of the water itself. So yeah, Lake Tana itself, when it is the rainy season in Ethiopia, remember July, around the time of July, you have the serious rising, and you also have the flooding of the Nile. That is because of the rainy season in the highlands of Ethiopia. In fact, according to the history, that is how ancient Kemet was formed. It was the rich soil, the rich topsoil that would have come down from the high mountains of Ethiopia that would have eventually made the landmass that is Egypt today, according to the folklore. So that water now, the rainy season, would really give Lake Tana its boost, fill it up. And it is that same water gushing down into what is known as the Blue Nile, again meeting the White Nile in Khartoum on their way to Sudan and Egypt and into the Mediterranean Sea. So that's just nature. That's just natural. And that is really what's at stake here. But of course, it is a project and a process that we will definitely continue to follow. Family, remember, as I said, all of this information, we have some good articles in the Ambassador's Pen. And don't forget, we are talking about the 21st day of April. Make sure that you reserve your spot to be with us for the official launch of the Ambassador's Pen, the monthly mini magazine. Subscribe for it one time at the same time. Don't waste no time at all. It's your time. Remember, everything here is free. You don't have to pay to subscribe. You don't have to pay to receive the Ambassador's Pen or the magazine Kidemi. Once every 6 months is the magazine Kidemi, talking about the conscious look at reality. Yes, family, it is a real pleasure to serve. Yeah, it's a real joy to make sure that, you know, I bring the information and the inspiration to those who are interested in it. And of course, that is, again, our pleasure. Family, give thanks again for your presence. If you know your Bible and you do not know your history, the knowledge of your Bible will become a mystery. And of course, it takes some real eyes to realize the real lies that are amongst us. What a joy. Praise Haile Selassie the First. Glorify Empress Menin. Holy Emmanuel I, Selassie I, Jah, Rastafari. Give thanks.